Hello people of YouTube, welcome to the special report, your news about geek gaming culture on the internet. Coming up in the show today, we're going to get into the mess that YouTube has made this time on demonetization on several videos with sometimes no rhyme or reason behind it over a year-old policy that they have seemed to just now crack down on. We're going to be talking a lot about just what exactly this means for YouTubers and the hysteria behind it and whether or not we need to actually calm down on it and when we have to actually say something about it. My name is JD Shadow and the special report will start right about now. Well, it does seem that YouTube has got into its own brand of cluster you-know-what yet again. This time, it is about something called Advertiser Friendly. Now, what does this mean? It basically means that over the past couple of days, a few YouTubers, most notably Philip DeFranco, Boogie2988, and Chris Raygun, just to name a few, have seen their videos being demonetized. And the reason why is because that YouTube has deemed those subject of those particular videos non-advertiser friendly, which basically means that they don't think advertisers that would be displaying ads on their content if they were to monetize the videos would want to advertise on these videos. But why would they not want to advertise on those videos anyway, according to YouTube? Well, this actually stems from what appears to be a year-old policy on advertiser-friendly content guidelines. According to YouTube, content that is considered inappropriate for advertising includes but is not limited to sexually suggestive content including partial nudity and sexual humor, 2. Violence including display of serious injury and events related to violent extremism, 3. Inappropriate language including harassment, profanity, and vulgar language, 4. Promotion of drugs and regulated substances including selling, use, and abuse of such items, and 5. Controversial or sensitive subjects and events including subjects related to war, political conflicts, natural disasters, and tragedies, even if graphic imagery is not shown. The 5th one is the one that is worrying a lot of people, as well as the 3rd one, but we will get to those in just a second because there is reason to suspect that both sides have something to learn from this. Now, in a aside, it says, quotes, if any of the above describes any portion of your video, then the video may not be approved for monetization. If monetization is approved, your video may not be eligible for all available ad formats. YouTube reserves the right to not monetize the video, as well as suspend monetization features on channels that repeatedly submit videos violating our policies. Now, if you had skimmed over this or did not really know that this was even in effect, you would probably not be blamed because this is something that they put on the books for a year or so now, yet they didn't exactly tell anybody that this was in effect. And this has led a lot of people to come out and basically condemn YouTube yet again. Just a few months after the Where's the Fair Use movement began, which I am going to disclaim me being fully supporting. Some people had claimed that this was in direct correlation of YouTube to stop what has been called inconvenient opinions. That's my own words. In other words, opinions that many people might not want to hear, or might not want to agree with. And I'm not talking about hateful opinions. I'm not talking about those you were to hear an outright racist say or an outright bigot might say. I'm talking about those that might just have a different opinion, a different political opinion, and might choose to say things in a more constructive manner, in a more lighthearted manner, or something along those lines. I'm talking about those that would not be deemed hateful in any sort of regard unless you were trying to find a way to discredit that person because you wanted to score political points outside of the norm. And the fact that they had not really cracked down up until this week might make some people, again, not be blamed for getting up in arms. And more to the point, it is unclear as to how far-reaching these policies have actually gone to. We do not know how much they're willing to crack down on certain issues. We do not know how MCNs are going to play into this either. We do not know whether or not people like Polaris or N4G TV, which I am a member of, how much Maker Studios or anybody else on MCNs are going to be affected by this. We do not know about that at all, or whether individual advertisers have actually asked for this. And to be quite honest with you, and I'm going to link you to a Variety article in the description below this video because this is the best source that I can get from this. But this is something that has a lot of people upset, a lot of people afraid, a lot of people angry, a lot of people up in arms, and I can't really blame them completely for that, and I'll get to that here in just a second. But there's also some degree of blame that has to come from those content creators, because even though this was something that was not really advertised by YouTube, we probably should have known about it. We probably should have seen it. We probably should have done enough research about it in order to figure out that this was actually in the books for about a year now. We should have been a little bit better in doing our own research, but that haven't been said, and that haven't been something that we should have done. And I want to ask people that before you make knee-jerk reactions to calm the hell down, because there's a lot of people who are making these knee-jerk reactions before they figure out what exactly is going on here and what could be going on here, because there's a lot of theories about just why exactly they're doing this in the first place. The idea that this is going on because some people are trying to censor inconvenient opinions, I don't think it's going on, because if that was the case, and I do understand the type of inconvenient opinions we are actually talking about here that people were thinking is being censored, if that was the case, then the Young Turks would not be demonetized, but they are being demonetized as well. They have reported that they have gotten hit by this whole sweep as well, and they are as liberal as you can get. They are as progressive as you can get. And there's nothing wrong with being progressive. There's nothing wrong with being liberal or conservative or Republican or Democrat or whatever. There are many Republicans who hate Donald Trump right now. That's how diverse some of these political aspects have gotten into. So let's not kid ourselves in thinking this is exclusive to one side of the spectrum or the other. Social issues are not the be-all end-all as to whether or not these things are getting demonetized. However, I would not blame people for thinking that, given the fact that, one, these are a lot of people who are being demonetized that are talking about such social aspects and social issues, and two, that there has been this whole push with the past couple of years to have these things in the limelight, and I wholeheartedly support those things being in the limelight, but we got to do it the right way. We have to do it in such a way that is not going to make people more angry than they are informed about these types of issues. Yes, we want better representations of minorities like women and sexual orientation and race and creed and religions in different aspects of entertainment, but the disagreement comes of what does that mean and how do we apply that. If we only listen to one side of that coin, then we're never going to get anywhere, because people have different ideas of what that actually means and how that should actually be implemented into these forms of entertainment. And if we use vitriol to get a point across, that solves nothing, and that actually proves nothing, and that is something that we should not have to do. That should not be something we do, period. Yet people are being encouraged to do that, and some people are using those social sensitivities in order to gain corporate points with other people. And of course, this is a very deep topic about how people need to start forgiving other people for not having the exact same opinions as anybody else. We've come to a point where we have to say repeatedly that we're not this or that before talking about things in the social spectrum, and it should be obvious that having a different opinion or having a different mindset as to how we go about having better representation of minorities doesn't mean that we're bigoted ourselves. That is something that should be obvious, but we have to point that out every single time, because people have a vested interest in making sure that they fuel the fire even more, or they make sure that the people who are trying to quell the fire don't have a single chance in hell of doing so. They have a vested interest in being the world profiteers, for lack of a better term. However, let's get to what this actually could be. First of all, let's get to where YouTube falters a lot here. One thing is apparent with YouTube, and this is something that has not been new with YouTube: communication. They have failed on this yet again. And how many times do we have to say to YouTube, the one thing you can do to stop things like this is to say something? The fact that it took Total Biscuit and Monday Matt to say, either in videos or in tweets, that this was on the books of YouTube for a year, and and they just now started to crack down on it, should show you that YouTube did not do a very good job of communicating that this was there at all. You would be hard pressed to know that it was even there, because how often have you seen it actually be enforced to this scale? Not very much, to be quite honest with you. I personally have not seen any of my videos being flagged for demonetization, because I am on an MCN, and according to a few people, MCNs, you don't even know that have been demonetized to begin with. So there might be some that have been demonetized on my end that have not been seen through my eyes, but this goes more to the point that YouTube needs to communicate with us better. They need to be more informative. This should not be a privilege of whether or not you can get somebody on YouTube, a human being on YouTube, to tell you something, anything that happens. How many times have we gone on YouTube one morning to see that their entire layout has changed? It was something much different about the player has changed. And we were sitting there, I'm saying, what the hell, YouTube? When did you plan on doing this to us? When did you want to do this? We was never aware that this feature was going to be implemented, or that this rule set was going to be implemented. This should not be something that is privileged to those people who have such and such amount of subscribers or such amount of views. This should be something that is standard for everybody that uses your service. Remember, Dailymotion is getting up there a little bit, but they have a lot of problems as well with their copyright system, but they can get up there. You are not invincible, YouTube. You can be beaten. So you have to be the one to say, here is what we're changing. We're gonna make sure you see it. It should not take other YouTubers, other content creators to make us informed of something that you should have done yourselves. The fact that it took us a year to know that this was even a thing, that this was even something that you were doing in the first goddamn place, is enough for you to say, wait a minute, we might be a little bit better in telling anybody anything. And it took me about a couple weeks to know that you changed the copyright system, the way that you issue strikes, the way you issue punishments towards strikes, and that you changed it for the better, thank God. But now you're gonna paint yourself into this mess. Because here's the thing, even though you may not realize that this could be a slippery slope, this is a slippery slope. But what's stopping somebody from demonetizing something because of censorship? Because they want to do this sort of censorship called financial strangle. That's what I call it, because it's not censorship in of itself. It's a way in which you keep somebody from earning revenue off of their videos, and you keep people who you deem inappropriate from being able to continue to fund their channel or fund their living, and they would have to go elsewhere. And a lot of YouTubers use this as a career choice. They use this as a way to earn money, to make a living. And even though they probably go about using other forms of revenue streams, this is probably the main one. So you gotta be really careful about how you implement this. A lot of people are scared, and rightfully so. You may want to tell people about this. You may want to tell people about the scope in which you're thinking about, and you might want to calm the bot, assuming it is a bot, assuming this is just a bot going wild and getting everything. And you may want to clean up those bots as well, because this is showing you even more that bots are not the way. And if this was an actual human being that's going around getting all these videos, you got a lot of explaining to you do, YouTube. But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that I think is being lost in all of this, and people who are saying that we need to calm down and stuff, which we do, but some things are not being looked at as far as what this policy could catch, and that is gameplay footage, reviews, and the whole thing with profanity. As you may recall, the reason why we haven't seen this be enforced, because they really haven't gotten too many people from this. Nowadays, it seems like they have been cracking down, so maybe they have also been more stricter of what that means, of what these things mean, of what constitutes to a violation of those policies. Where, okay, maybe the rules were in the books for a year now, but maybe their interpretation of what constitutes a violation has changed. That part might be new. So we have to, again, be informed of whether or not you have people that have changed their minds about what constitutes a violation and what has sparked this crackdown. Because this might go beyond quote-unquote inconvenient opinions. This might go to people who use profanity as part of their character, like the angry video game nerd, like the nostalgia critic, like Total Biscuit, like people like that who use profanity as part of their entertainment value, as part part of the reason why people like them is that they would use that sort of profanity. That will cross the line because that's part of their persona. Like, that's part of who they are. Like, that's the character that they play. And also, let's talk about video game footage, because I don't think many people have actually touched upon this. If my gameplay footage of Metal Gear Solid 5 or The Witcher 3 becomes demonetized because of it being too violent to be quote-unquote advertiser friendly, or if a review of a game is not quote-unquote advertiser friendly because of the gameplay footage that I show being unsuitable to get past these sort of regulations and rule sets, then that is a different situation altogether, because how are we going to avoid that? How are we going to avoid stuff like that? If I do an anime reaction and suddenly I see a scene in which the main character has been raped, or maybe a very violent scene takes place, and the reaction I give is something that I want to show people. If I want to show that, then that means I might not be able to monetize that video because of YouTube saying that that scene was too graphic for advertisers to want to put their advertising dollars into it. Not to mention the WTFU, of course, and me saying again that anime reactors need to be protected better on YouTube, because that is a lot different than me finding a YouTube video and reacting to that, which I don't is the same thing. But now we have this problem on top of the fact that it might also be flagged for copyright, which it shouldn't be in the first place. We shouldn't have to flip videos around and stuff like that in order to get past the bot, because it shouldn't be implemented for us in the first damn place. But what if that becomes a problem? This is a slippery slope, and they need to clear this up about what exactly they mean by sensitive topics, by inappropriate language, stuff like that. They need to be more upfront about who they are going to put into this rule set, if not everybody. Video games do deal with those certain topics. If I play Grand Theft Auto 5 on PC and I want to show that gameplay footage and it goes to a particular mission and I'm being deemed that the game is not advertiser friendly, that not only means that my gameplay footage is not suitable for advertisers, but that means the game is not suitable for advertisers, and you're going to not only have me on your backs, but you're also going to have the developers of the game on your back. If you flag me for showing something in The Witcher 3, you're not going to only have me on your back, but you're possibly going to have CD Projekt Red on your back. Or maybe Hideo Kojima if I show a suggestive scene in MGS5. Or maybe Rockstar if it was GTA 5 or something along those lines. How far is this going to go? How far are you willing to push this issue? And more to the point, about sensitive topics. Why are you demonetizing people for these sensitive topics in the first place? Now, I can understand this might be a wedge issue. I can understand that people might frown upon others if they say hey, I should be paid for talking about things like suicide or things like terrorism or something like that. But at the same time, if you are talking about a sensitive matter such as that and you're trying to help people out, why should they be punished for that? Why should they be punished for talking about those issues? They should be commended for having the guts to talk about those things in a way that may make people become more aware of those mental health issues, or maybe more aware of those sensitive topics, or maybe more aware of those controversial issues. Maybe that's what we need in order to have people pay attention. Maybe we should be a little bit more confrontational. Maybe we should be a little more controversial. Maybe we should talk about more sensitive issues like that, and we should be commended like that. We should not be punished for that by having YouTube take our monetization rights away for those videos. I can understand maybe the greediness of certain people might be too much, or maybe we are unaware that we are being greedy about that, and we probably shouldn't be. But at the same time, shouldn't they be commended for that sort of thing? And maybe the best way in order to commend those people is by letting them keep their monetizations on those things. And it's something that I think a lot of people might side with me on. That, okay, even though you might have a point of, okay, maybe you shouldn't be whining or crying about your video about suicide being demonetized, but the fact that you even had the gall to be able to get up there onto a stage and talk about your personal issues with the situation and how you can help others by talking about your own well-being and your own health and welfare, maybe you should should be a little bit commended for that, and maybe you shouldn't be punished for it. And I feel as though YouTube is punishing those people for talking about those things. I feel like by doing this, they are punishing those people for talking about things like suicide and suicidal prevention and how to get help if you need it. Why should I be punished for making my anxiety shadowcast, for instance? Now, I don't know if I ever gotten demonetized for that, but be it as it may, I worked long and hard to get that put together and to find the people who have dealt with the same things that I have to talk about those issues, and that was a hard thing for them as well. Why should they be punished? Why should Luna be punished? Why should Dolphin be punished? Why should Peachy be punished or Gala Moon be punished for that? Why should anybody be punished for stuff like that? I don't think that people who are talking about this type of issues should be punished for that, and they should actually be given a Medal of Honor for that. Now, I'm not saying you should give me a Medal of Honor. You should probably give people like Boogie2988 a Medal of Honor. You should give people like Total Biscuit a Medal of Honor. That guy is making videos as if nothing's wrong with him, yet he is hoping and praying that he's one of the outliers for his type of cancer, in which might claim his life in a few years if it's able to hold off for that long. I just feel as though YouTube is being insensitive about those types of issues by punishing them, by taking away demonetization for that. And here's the last thing I want to bring up. Did YouTube go to advertisers and ask them, what do you want to advertise on? What did you see as advertiser friendly? Do you remember when they did the managed and partnered or affiliated thing a couple of years ago, where they made some people like Angry Joe go back into the wild about copyright issues and copyrighted content in their videos and stuff like that? Do you remember what happened there? A lot of video game developers actually said they didn't want YouTube doing that. They never asked for YouTube to implement that policy. They never asked for YouTube to do any of that kind of stuff. They are very much aware that Let's Players and YouTube reviewers are out there, and they fully support those guys. They never asked YouTube to do that, yet YouTube went on a whim and they did that thinking that they had all the answers as to whether or not video game developers wanted them to do that. Now here we are again. YouTube is going around demonetizing all these videos regardless of whatever reason they might have, and they might want to tell people the reason why they're doing that and having them have a chance to appeal these processes for being unadvertiser friendly, when they might not even be asking the advertisers whether or not they would want to advertise on these types of videos. Maybe advertisers want to advertise on Young Turks. Maybe they want to advertise at Chris Ray Gun. Maybe they want to advertise on these things. Maybe one particular advertiser might say no way, no how, and then a next advertiser might say, you know what, we're perfectly fine. We like that whole idea of being controversial. We like the fact that we can be on a show or a channel that is known to have controversial opinions, or we like the fact that they touch upon these sensitive topics. We think it's a good thing. We want to reward these people with their advertising dollars. Like, for instance, maybe on a video for The Witcher 3, maybe I wouldn't get a form of advertising revenue from Charmin toilet paper, but maybe from Capcom I might be getting some advertising revenue. Maybe Capcom wants to advertise on my stream, or maybe my channel because of my playthroughs. Maybe Doritos might not want to advertise on my anxiety shadowcast, but perhaps WebMD, seen as how I'm talking about an issue that has to do with health, maybe they might see that as a way to get a reach for those people who might be wanting more information about that sort of thing and might be willing to fund that video with their advertising dollars. Advertisers are a finicky bunch. Remember, just because one advertiser doesn't want to be a part of a particular show does not mean the next advertiser is going to follow suit. Just because, say, Campbell's Soup is not going to advertise, or say the WWE, doesn't mean that, say, PepsiCo is not going to do the same thing. Or maybe KFC is going to continue to sponsor the WWE, whereas McDonald's might not. You can't put a blanket statement on all advertisers and say this is what they think. This is how all those people think. And you definitely can't say that we are going to make the decision for the advertisers, because you can't do that. You don't know what these advertisers are thinking. You might be saying, oh, this is not advertiser friendly, and then all your advertisers suddenly say, wait a minute, we want to advertise on these controversial channels. We want to advertise on the Young Turks. We want to advertise on Chris Ray Gun. What are you doing, YouTube? Why are you considering this? We never asked for it. Not only are we not asking for it, we kind of want our advertising revenue to support those guys. We kind of want that. So yeah, YouTube has got a lot lot to answer for right now. And how they get into these sort of things is beyond me. Why they continue to get into these situations that they create themselves is beyond me. They have to communicate better. They have to be upfront and completely clear about what this all means. They have to give us better communication, period, about a whole slew of issues. They never tell us anything, and we have to be better informed. And plus, this is a policy that was a year old, but yet this is so vague that you could change your minds about what constitutes to a violation on a whim, and no one will know that you've changed your mind because it's so vague that you don't have to change a single word on it. And yet now more people are being caught into this because you suddenly decided that you're going to crack down and you're going to change your minds about what makes a violation a violation. Yes, maybe we should be more informed. Yes, we should be a little bit more inclined to figure out what exactly it is you're doing, but we shouldn't have to do that because you should be a little bit more upfront and you should be absolutely clear without any question about what exactly everything means. How do you interpret what constitutes to a violation of these policies? This opens the door for abuse. This opens the door for slippery slopes. This opens the door for everything to just come crashing down in a financial strangle form of censorship. That's what I call it. If you guys have a better way for me to describe it, you can please leave your messages down below. Hopefully there's a better way to describe that, but that's the only way I know how to describe it. And of course, you need to be clear about why you're doing this, because a lot of people, and I wouldn't blame them, are thinking you're trying to stifle inconvenient opinions and inconvenient topics. And these people should not be punished for doing that. They should not be punished for being a little bit controversial, and maybe that's what we need, because quite frankly right now I have a feeling that a lot of people are getting a little sick and tired of some people being way too unforgiving, being way too vitriolic in how they express certain sensitive topics that it's important to all of us, yet we might have different interpretations about what constitutes vitriolic language and different solutions about how we can go about to deal with equal representation for all. Now, there has been this theory that perhaps the reason why this is going on is because of YouTube trying to really push YouTube Red. And personally, I can't blame them for saying that, because for one, YouTube has been pushing YouTube Red a lot. They have really been pushing that. And to be quite honest with you, and this is not me saying this just because I've been caught or haven't been caught in any of this whole mess myself or anything like that. This is not me saying it because YouTube Red does give content creators revenue directly, although it does. This is not me saying that just because of this, but it does give a whole hell of a lot of value. Now, I don't think playing YouTube videos in the background or while your mobile phone is locked should be put behind a paywall. That I don't agree with. However, a lot of these other things, like not needing to watch ads while you're on a mobile device, and I understand people use AdBlock on desktop versions, but on mobile you don't have that luxury, is something that is so much welcome to a lot of people. And plus, you know that the content creator is going to get the money anyway, regardless of what you decide to do on the desktop version or whatever. And plus, you get exclusive content anyway, so it's more or less a win-win. Although I do think that they should not hide certain things behind the paywall to begin with, but that's just me. I do subscribe to YouTube Red because, quite frankly, I want to support the content creators who make a living on YouTube and plus put their hearts and souls and minds into their content. I want to reward those people who work long and hard on these types of videos and hardly get any love for that. They're just due. I want to do that for them, and I want to continue to do that. But this might not be the way for YouTube to go about doing certain things, and this might not be the way for YouTube to say, hey, subscribe to YouTube Red, even though you probably should anyway. This is not the way to go about advertising your product. And if it becomes the fact that they are trying to actually use this in order to censor certain people through means of financial strangling, then of course they really need to be called out on it. Again, this is something that has been in the books for a year or so now, but it took them this long to get to actually using it. Maybe YouTube forgot it was even there to begin with themselves. And this is basically them probably changing what the interpretation of that is without telling us. Maybe it was there for a year, but it just took them this long in order to say, hey, we can actually use this to our advantage to censor people. Or for, hey, we can use this to get the kind of website we actually want. I can't blame certain content creators for saying, hey, we need to calm down a little bit. We need to not be as greedy as we seem to be. We shouldn't try to see the forest from the trees. But at the same time, you can't really fault anybody for getting angry because YouTube never bothered to tell us that they had this to begin with, or that they were changing their minds about what exactly anything actually meant. This is YouTube's fault as much as it is our own. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Special Report. Thanks again for watching this long-winded version of it. I am very sorry I got onto that rant. I really had a lot to say on this. Please leave a comment down below about what you think about the situation and if you have been hit by this whole thing. And thanks again for watching. My name is JD Shadow, and you know what I'm about to say next. That just happened. And where's the fair use?